We will now call to order the Municipal Authority meeting for February 14, 2022. We will ask that you join us for the invocation and flag salute. Let us stand at this time. Let us pray. Dear Lord, we give you thanks for this day, a day that we have not seen and are surely not to see again. And Father, we are just eternally grateful for your presence, for giving us the ability through your divine providence to be here on this day. God, I pray your blessing upon us as we move forward, that we don't move forward with our thoughts, but that we are led and guided by the direction of the Holy Spirit through the power of Jesus Christ, your Son. This we ask in his name we pray. Amen. Amen. Let us look to the flag. Attention, salute, pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Here.
Ivory Van.
Here.
Jamie Stout.
Here.
Evelyn Hibbs.
Here.
Alex Reynolds.
Here.
Stephanie Morgan.
Here.
Tracy McGee.
Here.
Tracy Hoos.
Here. Let us look at the item number 1.
Consider approval of MMA minutes of January 10, 2022, or take other necessary action.
I hope that we've all had an opportunity to consider the minutes. Do we have a motion to approve or any corrections?
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on item number 1? Roll call.
Tracy Hoos.
Yes.
Tracy McGee.
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan. Alex Reynolds.
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Yes. The item passes. Item number 2.
Consider approval of MMA claims for the month ending January 31, 2022, or take other necessary action.
Mr. Miller.
Yes, Chairman, members of the authority, you have before you the claims for MMA. We'd be happy to answer any questions. We do recommend approval.
Do we have any questions for Mr. Miller concerning the claims, or do we have a motion to approve?
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Further discussion on the claims. Roll call.
Tracy Hoos.
Yes.
Tracy McGee. Stephanie Morgan.
Yes.
Alex Reynolds. Evelyn Hibbs.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Yes, the item passes. We will now adjourn that meeting and turn to the meeting of the Muskogee City Council for February 14, 2022. Roll call.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Here.
Ivory Van.
Here.
Jamie Stout.
Here.
Evelyn Hibbs.
Here.
Alex Reynolds. Stephanie Morgan.
Here.
Tracy McGee.
Here.
Tracy Hoos.
Here. We will now consider approval of the minutes for the City Council regular session January 24, 2022. I hope we've had an opportunity to review those minutes. Do we have any corrections or a motion to approve?
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion concerning the minutes? Roll call.
Tracy Hoos.
Yes.
Tracy McGee.
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan.
Yes.
Alex Reynolds.
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Yes. The item passes. We will now consider the consent agenda, which consists of items numbers 1 through 10. Do we have any items to be moved to the regular agenda?
Mr. Mayor, may I be recognized?
Yes, Mr. Van.
I'd like to pull item 10.
We're going to make a motion to move item 10 to the regular agenda. Do we have a second?
Mayor, just
Yes.
a point of clarification. Since this is a relocation from consent, just one member has to say it. You don't have to vote on it.
Thank you.
You'll just need to discuss it and take a vote separately from the other items that have remained on the consent agenda.
Okay, so do we discuss item 10 now or approve the consent agenda without it?
Generally, you'll approve consent agenda minus item 10, and then the next item in regular agenda will be item 10.
Let us have a motion to approve items 1 through 9 for the consent agenda.
Move for approval.
Second.
Any further discussion on that request? Roll call.
Tracy Hoos.
Yes.
Tracy McGee.
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan.
Yes.
Alex Reynolds. Evelyn Hibbs.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Yes. Item number 10.
Consider approval of honorary street signs to be installed at 2nd and Court Streets and 3rd and Court Streets to be named Dr. Robert C. Smith Way, or take other necessary action.
Mr. Van.
I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Mike Stewart.
Thank you. Mr.
Yeah,
Stewart.
Mayor and Council, this item was moved down to regular session because there's a name change on it. Instead of Robert C. Smith Way, we're going to make it Dr. Robert C. Smith Avenue. This item was brought to us by Counselor Van and Dennis Wilhite. And a reminder, Dr. Robert C. Smith was a practitioner here in Muskogee for many years. He was also one of the first group of the Tuskegee Airmen. Do recommend approval, and it's just a name change from Way to Avenue.
Thank you. Mr. Stewart, do we have a motion to that effect?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this item? Roll call.
Tracy Hous.
Yes.
Tracy McGee.
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan.
Yes.
Alex Reynolds.
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Yes, the item passes. Item number 11.
Hold a public hearing and take action on the approval of ordinance number 4152A to rezone property addressed as 3701 South York Street, being more particularly described in the ordinance from R1 Single Family Residential to A1 Agricultural District, and if approved, authorize staff to revise the official zoning map of the city to reflect said change or take other necessary action.
We will now open the public hearing. Ms. Callahan.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. This is a request from Kurt McClelland. They are the owner and applicant. There is an amendment to the request. The McClellands, the applicants, called this morning, and upon discussion with the neighborhood, have agreed to downzone from the agriculture to the residential agriculture. The board for the homeowners association voted to approve that they would be in favor of the residential agriculture. So it would be a change from the R1, and it would be to residential agriculture. The residential agriculture does limit the number of animals that are allowed per acre. There are 6 fowl per acre and 2 animals per acre. So it does limit the number of animals that can be on the property. But it still is to allow for agriculture use. I'll go through. And again, it does, this one, it is now a request to go from the R1 residential to the RA residential agriculture. Staff recommends approval, Planning Commission recommend approval, denied. Planning Commission and Public Works recommended denial.
Thank you, Ms. Callahan. We have 3 residents signed up to speak to this item. The first person is Michelle Alston. I'm going to ask that you come to the microphone and give us your name and your address, and you will have 5 minutes.
Good evening. It's Michelle Olshan, and I live at 1812 East Woodland Circle here in Muskogee in the Woodlands. I am a member of the Homeowners Association for the Woodlands, and I'm here to oppose the A1, which I understand that the McClellans are going to ask for an RA. So yesterday afternoon, we had an opportunity to go to the McClellans' home and tour their home and what they wanted to do with the cows and the chickens. And while we were there, Mr. McClellan did explain that he did want to change it to RA. And this was just yesterday afternoon. We have not had an opportunity as a homeowners association or a board to go bring this new information to the homeowners, because this just happened yesterday at 3 o'clock. So what we wanted to do and what we're asking the city council and the zoning board is to give us an opportunity to, as a homeowners association, bring this information to the homeowners so that everybody can have a voice, express what their concerns are. I know that I've had a ton of phone calls this afternoon about the change to the RA and what does that mean, and what is the process. So the folks just want an opportunity, the homeowners just want an opportunity to understand what RA exactly means. I know that there are several homeowners that are opposed to having any animals right there at the front of the development. We did purchase our homes in residential area. It has been residentially zoned there for 20-some years. And we, as a homeowners association, as board, need to bring this new information to the homeowners so that they can have their opinion, so that everybody clearly understands. We don't want to have a big hullabaloo with the McClellans. We want to live we all just want to live quietly amongst ourselves, want to have, be good neighbors to them. They want to be good neighbors to us. But we just need an opportunity to be able to explain what's going on greater than 24 hours. So we respectfully ask that if the city could have the RA go through the proper channels. We understand that it has to get approved. There's an application for RA. It has to get approved. I don't foresee that we're going to have a really big issue with it if it's just a couple of cows and some chickens. You know, everybody, this is America, and everybody does deserve to feed their families and earn a living. And, you know, if it does get approved, you know, so be it. But we would just like the opportunity to bring it properly to the homeowners association, and then it properly go through the application process of an RA. So that's all I had. Thank you.
Do we have any questions for Ms. Ocean from the council? Thank you, Ms. Ocean. The next person having signed up to speak to us tonight is Rachel Neighbors. I'm going to ask that you come to the microphone and give us your name and your address, and you will have 15 minutes.
We let Michelle speak for all of us tonight.
Yes, ma'am.
Signed up earlier. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next person having signed up to speak to us tonight is Dr. Roger, and I apologize if I say your name wrong, Richter.
Perfect. I'm going to say Michelle's going to speak for all of us.
She spoke for all of you. Thank you very much. We will now close the public hearing and entertain comments from the council. Mr. Tucker, my immediate question will be, what would be our procedures if we need to give them another week, or if it's 2 weeks, or whatever we need to do for the time they need to work this out among themselves?
Certainly. With this item, Mayor, you are free to table this to another meeting. If the date is stated on the record, then staff will not need to republish the notice of public hearing, so you can simply table it. Of course, your other option, of course, is to either approve or deny it. But
Ms. Ocean, if you will return to the microphone, please.
Keep in mind, we don't meet next week.
Is 2 weeks
Yeah,
fine?
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely, yes.
Yes, ma'am. Mr.
That's
Tucker,
perfect.
can we make a motion to extend, what should the motion be, Mr.
the
Tucker?
motion would be to table this item until the February 28th council meeting.
Do we have a motion to that effect?
Can,
I'll make a motion.
before we make our motion, can Mr. Tucker let us read the RA ordinance so everybody is clear on what is allowed and what is not allowed under the RA?
Mr. Tucker, are you prepared to do that?
I am. So with regard to the RA, which of course is a less intensive agricultural use than straight A, with regard to animals, livestock and fowl are permitted. With regard to livestock, the ordinance specifies that there is a maximum of 2 animals permitted per 1 acre lot. Now, the Board of Adjustment, as a special exception, can vary that requirement, but that contains provisions for another public hearing in front of the Board of Adjustment. With regard to the fowl, they are permitted a maximum of 6 fowl per 1 acre lot, but no roosters are permitted at all within that provision. Additionally, horses may be, an equestrial facility may be permitted as a hobby versus some kind of professional commercial enterprise. Urban agricultural community gardens are permitted. And with regard to any of the other provisions as it relates to the residential agricultural, those are, all residential zoning, those are the only differences. Now, there are some additional uses that are by special use, such as bed and breakfast or community residence, but those are also special exceptions in the other residential classifications. So what I talked about with regard to the livestock is the only difference between RA and 1 through R1, R2, R3, R4, R5.
Thank you, Mr. Tucker. As previously asked, do we have a motion to that effect to table this item to February 28th?
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion from the council?
I think, Mr. Mayor, may we recognize?
Yes, Mr. Van.
I think this is a great thing that y'all done, because I have the same zoning with my cows, and I live in the city limits. So it's, and plus my neighbors, they didn't have any, complaints against them, but they also come and help me feed my cows. My cows are so gentle, you can just take them cubes and put it right in their mouth. They're just that gentle. So I think, I'm glad the neighborhood association is to be good neighbors. That's all we, like you said, that's all we try to do in Muskogee, is just be, let's all get along.
Once everybody has their voice opinion, then that's it, then it's done. That's all we want to do.
I turn the floor back over to you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Van. We have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Roll call.
Tracy Hous.
Yes.
Tracy McGee.
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan.
Yes.
Alex Reynolds.
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Yes. Thank you, Ms. Olson.
Thank you.
Item number 12.
Hold a public hearing and take action on the approval of Resolution Number 2889, amending the land use map regarding property located on the northeast corner of North 40th Street and West Shawnee, more particularly described in the resolution from residential to local commercial, and if approved, authorize staff to revise the land use map of the city to reflect said change or take other necessary action.
We will now open the public hearing. Ms. Callahan.
Yes, this is a request from the city of Muskogee to amend the land use map, and this is in order to hear the rezoning request that is the next agenda item. We cannot even entertain the rezoning request without having the land use map meet that criteria, which would be from residential to commercial. The request is to go to commercial. The area is located there at North 40th and West Shawnee. And this was recommended for approval by Planning Commission and staff, and Public Works moved forward without recommendation.
Thank you, Ms. Callahan. We will now close the public hearing. Since no residents have signed up to speak to this item, we will now take questions and concerns from the council. Mr. Miller?
There was some discussion last week about what OG&E thought about the power available at that site, and Mr. Tim Thompson from OG&E is here, may be able to address some of those questions. I don't know if that's the will of the council to ask those, but I do want to make sure they know that Mr. Thompson is here in case that subject is relevant this evening.
Several members had asked for that information. Mr. Thompson, I'm going to ask that you come to the microphone, give us your name and address, and you have 15 minutes to let us know your thoughts and concerns.
All right, thank you very much. Tim Thompson with OG&E, and we're at 2301 24th Street. I know how to get there, but you know, we was talking about these. We're kind of in a unique time right now in Muskogee and in Oklahoma, where a lot of companies are looking for some reliable, inexpensive electricity, and happens to be right here in Muskogee with our generation capacities and all of our transmission facilities we have in this region, that we have a capacity surplus that for economic development. So just to give you a little background on what we do when a company like this comes in, this is it's a fairly large usage of electricity. When I say that, it's you know, it's definitely much more than like a housing subdivision. It's maybe less than one of our bigger customers we have here in town, our manufacturers. But anytime we get a significant load, we will look and see what our capacity is in that region. We will not overload our system or allow it to be overloaded by new business coming in. We will if we need to expand our system, raise the capacity from a substation, then we will make them wait to take that load until we are capable of doing it. So we've went through the studies, and we have the capacity, and so as far as electrically goes, it will not adversely affect any of our existing customers or any future growth. We will, you know, take steps to decide, hey, we're going to need to increase our capacity in a region, and we'll go ahead and put some of those long lead items on order so we can move forward. Any questions?
Do we have any questions for Mr. Thompson on that item on tonight?
Mr. Mayor, may I be recognized?
Yes.
So they requested, I think he said 750 megawatts is what they said when they were here last week, that's a lot of electricity. I mean, that will, I don't know, what, 13,000 homes or something like that. I mean, but what's that going to do to my rates as a consumer already on this grid? A study done in Berkeley February last year where they looked at cryptocurrency mining in these communities, and they said that everyone's rates went up an average of 10%, like the community they did, went up to $8 per household, $12 per small business. And if that's going to happen to me for cryptocurrency mining, there's no really economic benefit for that to go across the whole community. So what would that do to our rates if you have businesses like this that come in that can continue to draw our cheap energy?
Thank you. Well, Counselor, OG&E's rates are set by the Corporation Commission, so we cannot go in and increase them without their approval. So any new business coming in will not change the rate of our electricity at this time. So an example of what we do at OG&E, anytime we make an infrastructure change, we add value to our system, then we will apply with the Corporation Commission for a rate hearing. And at that time, then they will consider what the information we gave them. They have staff that goes over it. There's plenty of interveners that will come to those hearings and tell their side of it. And usually we work out a equitable solution for everyone involved. So specifically your question, we will not be able to change rates without the Corporation Commission's doing so.
But it doesn't stop you from going forward and asking for a rate hike due to consumption demands.
Yeah, the only thing that we've been able to get rate increases for is capital expenditures in our business, what we invest in the community. Public utilities in Oklahoma, they're capped on how much they can make on return and of their investments. And so we can make anything up to that point, but we can't make anything over. And we're not guaranteed that return. That's up to us to try to meet that bar.
Okay. And my second question is, it was not even a year ago that we were facing rolling blackouts because of the weather. And I feel like we have that probably a couple times during the summertime too, when our temperatures get to about, 100 plus for several days in a row. What's the plan on that with this much consumption being pulled out? We kind of lose that capacity, so that increases our chances for that to happen more often.
That's a very good question. Thank you. So these types of companies, they're not necessarily like a manufacturing company. These companies can shut their plants down just basically almost instantaneously. They can go from being a full-time user to zero power. And there's benefits for them to sign up for a rate that we have. It's called a curtailment rate. So when a company signs up to for curtailment, that means that they are willing to take a load reduction whenever the utility asks. They are compensated for that financially. And these companies are prime examples of ones that can go from full load to zero load and at those times.
Do you have to preemptively, look at like what's coming up ahead and ask them to shut down sooner than later? And is that what you tell them to do, or is that up to their option?
It's again, for them to get the benefit of the rates, the curtailment rate, they have to comply with that request. And so, a year ago, February, it was the Southwest Power Pool. So it wasn't just Oklahoma; it was all of the Midwest region that was under the power pool. And the first time in 32 years that I've worked at OG&E, we have had those rolling power interruptions. That at that time it was unprecedented. It's the first time the power pool had asked for them. We had curtailment in the summer times before, but this last February was all had to do around trying to get fuel to produce the electricity, and we was in competition with, of course, the gas company for providing heat to people's houses also.
Correct.
But I want y'all, I hope you feel that you got confidence in your electric company that we will do the studies before we hook up large users and make sure we're not going to adversely affect our system in our communities.
Dr. Hughes, any further questions from you?
No.
Any
Turn the
other?
floor.
Thank you. Any other comments from the council?
I had a comment, Mayor.
Yes, ma'am.
So we got Bitcoin coming out south of town, and this would be the same use over here. Would that not have a impact any?
From my best understanding, these are the same type of company as Core Scientific. Core Scientific is going to be a large energy consumer, and it's going to be a good partner for our county with all the capital expenditure they're going to lay down in our school systems, in school district, and for our county. But the company that we're talking about here on 4th is, I believe it's a 5 megawatt company, and compared to a 500 megawatt company. So there's a lot of variety in different sizes of them. It's way I understand it, it's equitable to be in the business right now, and so I think there's a lot of them scrambling to try to get in the business right now.
Thank you.
Mr. Thompson, the question I have, and you may or may not know this, do we have any knowledge of these types of companies being in residential neighborhoods?
I don't myself, Mayor. I have no input on that.
Okay. And the others, such as Core Scientific, if I'm not mistaken, we're building a substation to accommodate their needs.
It's both OG&E. We will build a substation to bring our power in off of our high voltage transmission line, and then we will supply Core Scientific's substation out of the one we're building. And I believe we have plans to extend our infrastructure in the same area.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Any other discussion from Mr.
Mayor,
Thompson?
did we not have people up here last week speaking against it? That was his residents around.
Yes, ma'am, we did. We did, Ms. Hibbs. Ms. Callahan?
What I'd like to clarify on this particular agenda item amends the land use map from residential, or request to amend the land use map from residential to commercial, regardless of what goes in, which is the next request, but can't be heard unless this is approved. If perchance the Campbells or the prospective buyers back out, the resolution that's before you changes the land use map to commercial from residential for any future commercial use, even if it's not the Bitcoin or the data mining. It would just be for future commercial use. So that's kind of what we were looking at, regardless of what goes in. Is it an appropriate zone for from residential to commercial in that area?
And I just want to be clear for the council's understanding, myself, and for that of the public. Item number 12 addresses an issue that was brought before on behalf of staff, and that it does conform to the future land use map, and that in item number 13, we will decide at that time whether or not to let this type of business go on that area.
Correct.
Okay, I'm fine with that. Mr. Reynolds?
Are they asking to build out this entire acreage, or are they just wanting to be up on the end by the substation?
The initial, from what I understand, and the applicant is here, if you'd like to ask that specifically, but my understanding is that they would develop there on that hard corner or keep it as commercial. To the north, they were wanting to keep it residential, or at least a multifamily residential, but this would, this opens up the area for commercial in the future, and then if they decide to sell it or develop to the north there, then they could change the zoning classification to back to multifamily residential or residential. On the rezoning request, I'd show that, but the sewer is over 300 feet away. So anything that is developed, if it's larger than anything that could handle a private sewer system, the sewer line would have to be extended. Water is available along 40th Street and Shawnee, but sewer is not. And so that is to take into consideration that anything that's developed that needs larger than just a private sewer system would need to have that extensive sewer line installation done.
And Ms. Callahan, to your point, I think if we hear from the applicant specific to item 13, I'd rather hear from them then. Let us just focus on this item as to whether or not we want to allow the rezoning.
Right.
Thank you, ma'am. What's the will of the council?
Move for approval?
Is that a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second, to be clear, to just on the rezoning issue alone, not to allow the usage of the,
This is just to amend the land use map.
this just to amend the land use map. Further discussion from the council?
So if we go to commercial,
What would stop?
someone want to build, I'm sorry, someone want to go back to residential, they got to come back.
Yes. Well, and I mean, it's currently zoned R4 multifamily residential, but the future land use map would be amended that in the future, if someone comes through that wants to do commercial, then it meets the future land use map for the request.
Okay, but they want, if they come in and want to go back to residential, they had to come back before.
Not on the, if it doesn't get, yeah, that's only if the zoning, not on the future
change.
land use map. The future land use map just allows for zonings to be heard
I got you.
based on them.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Roll call.
Tracy Hous. Tracy McGee.
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan.
Yes.
Alex Reynolds.
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
No. Thank you, Ms. Callahan. Item number 13.
Hold a public hearing and take action on the approval of ordinance number 4149A to rezone property located on the east side of North 40th Street, north of West Shawnee, being more particularly described in the ordinance from R4 multifamily to C1 local commercial, and if approved, authorize staff to revise the official zoning map of the city to reflect said change or take other necessary action.
We will now open a public hearing. Ms. Callahan.
Yes, thank you. Now that the resolution is passed that amends the future land use map for a commercial zoning application and request, we can hear this request from Chris Campbell and his sister Stephanie Timothy. They are the applicants, the owners are PNC Trust. It is to go from the R4 multifamily to the C1 local commercial, and it is to allow for future commercial development. This is a map of the area. Let's see what. It's a wider view of it. And then this shows the surrounding properties. Across to the west is park property. To the south is single-family residential zone. It is vacant property. And then to the east is local commercial. And then there is the multifamily residential housing subdivision there. And this, I believe, I can't see on the picture, but one of them, did I get the one up that has the shows the sewer line is the existing sewer is there in the housing subdivision, which is over 300 feet to then make it even to the edge of their property, and then along to 40th is like 900 feet. So staff and planning commission recommend approval. Public Works move forward without recommendation. If you have any questions, and I believe the applicant is here.
Mr. Tucker, we have questions for the applicant. Should we ask them while the public hearing is open, or should we close it?
You're able to ask him in the middle of the public hearing, yes.
Do we have any questions from the council for the applicant?
I want clarification on how much energy was you plan to draw up of it, because for some reason my recollection is initially it was going to start off at 5 megawatts, but then increase their capacity down the line.
We'd like to have that question addressed if the applicant is able to inform us at this time.
Yeah.
Give us your name and your address, please.
Yes, Mayor, Council, thanks so much for letting me come, and Tim, thanks for making the journey over here to answer questions for us. My name is Chris Campbell. My address is 1701 South Main Street, Broken Arrow, Oklahoma. To address your question, I think when we talked last week, currently we operate a 750 megawatt or kilowatt facility. This site has capacity up to 5 megawatts. We can't exceed that capacity, and for transformer usage, actually it's safe to say that you want to keep below that to not burn up your transformers. We would be buying and providing all the transformers and all the build out for this site, So this site, we would not exceed 5 megawatts. The will serve that we would have to have approved from OG&E would not allow us to have more than 5 megawatts of power consumed at that site. We've looked all over Oklahoma. We actually worked with the Port Authority to look for sites over there at the port originally, and even though there were a couple of sites to buy, there was not any places that had excess capacity available other than this site that were for sale in the city of Muskogee. And I would just affirm to Tim and OG&E, you do have a jewel here and your power provider that is providing good service, quality service, and timely communication and working through these types of proposals. And so because of us wanting to partner with OG&E, part of that was the reason why we chose Muskogee. We're currently partnered with PSO in Tulsa, and we're not having as much success with them to locate sites, to expand our business and grow. And so that's part of the reason why we're here in Muskogee having the discussion.
The question I have is, and my memory may be vague, but I thought that there was some conversation that there were problems or concerns about where the facility is currently located in Wagner. Can you expound on that?
Yeah, so currently we're in a residential zoning that we're currently at, and the County of Wagner has approved that along the way for us to be there. But for us to expand further, we can't expand any larger than we currently are, than what we currently are. We're on my dad's property currently, and so we want to expand operations. If we can keep the operations there in Wagner County, we'd love to keep that and have this site. We also have another site that we're looking at. But it's more so just an expansion, not a current issue of why we're being there.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Mr. Reynolds?
Where will you all be located on the property? Are you?
Tish, can you pull up the larger map, please?
Yeah,
Ms.
absolutely.
Callahan?
So according to OG&E and working with their team, this power that we're looking to tap into comes from the large substation that's actually northwest. I think that's 40th Street.
Right where it says park property.
40th and Pine?
It's actually over here.
Okay, so you guys will be up
So
in this
there's
area?
there's a line that runs all along 40th Street West. The line runs the whole length of the property, so we could actually locate anywhere along the whole line. We are planning for just appearance's sake to actually locate across the street from the old substation. We're not pulling power from there, but knowing that not many people want to put a commercial property or a residential property across the street from that substation and drive out and look at that every morning. We're actually thinking about putting our warehouse right across the street from it because that seems to be a good use, and then reserve the southern lot, which would be the intersection of West Shawnee and 40th Street, for a future commercial development if we've got the ability to do that. We don't have plans for that, currently, but we were trying to not build on that because of it being a hard corner and an extension of West Shawnee. We thought maybe eventually some small offices or something like that would go well there. And then ideally we wanted to leave the northern part of the property residential, but we did not want to incur the cost of surveying and doing all that work right now unless we knew that we could use the property for what we want to use it for related to this development. But the concern of the folks that came last week was that they did not want anything that had high traffic or some type of development that would cause some nuisance up there on the north. That is not our intention, and actually we would prefer that to stay residential, but for the sake of not incurring a bunch of costs right now, we just wanted to see if we could get the part that we needed for the new development zone, rezone commercial. But it is our intention to probably step that northern part back down to residential.
The question I have for Ms. Callahan, to that point, could the applicant have asked for the zoning in the way that he just explained it? Where one section of that area would be commercial just for that use, and then the rest of it would remain residential?
Do you mind if I answer that question? So we did request that originally. The property is a big mismatch of a bunch of different little parcels that are being reallocated together, and because we did not have a clear legal description of that northern part and the southern part, because it's currently not set up that way, the city asked us to make it as one single rezoning unless we would incur the cost of a survey. Due to time, the current landowner has been very gracious to extend time to accommodate these meetings and us. Actually, this week we are hoping to close on the property after already extending it. So just to not incur any other time and to keep it simple for the city, we approached it this way.
Mr. Tucker, is there any contractual mechanism we have to guarantee that we would only allow a certain area to be used for this purpose and allow the rest to be residential?
I am not aware of any such provision with regard to a rezoning. If we were talking about something related to like a special exception or some variance, the Board of Adjustment would have that authority, but so far we don't have anything in that regard that would allow us to place those restrictions. It kind of is rezoned or it isn't.
Thank you. And thank you, Ms. Callahan, for your work. Mr. Reynolds?
I'm of the mindset that very interested in what you guys are doing, and I would like to work with you on approving the area that you're going to open your particular shop or your warehouse in, and then leave the rest of it residential or whatever it is, so we can, and then at a later date, if you do have another opportunity or you want warehousing or whatever, please come back in front of us and we'll look at that, what that would be, and then approve it accordingly at the time.
I mean, if there was a way to accommodate that, we would love that. We're asking, there's a small little sliver of property currently that's in the middle of our property. Legally, I don't know if there's a way to say everything south of that, we would love to rezone commercial, and everything north of that, we'd love to leave it in the current use that it is. But I don't know. I would need your guys' advisement on how to guarantee that we had that. Obviously, we don't want to incur the cost. We're already have some risk of making sure that we're going to be getting the power that we need, but we don't want to incur the cost of buying the property and doing any development if we can't use it for our intended purposes.
Mayor, the only problem is the zoning ordinance has a legal description in it, and so that would need to be modified. And that, so you wouldn't be able to say anything past a particular line. You actually need a legal description because the zoning is I believe, Tish, correct me if I'm wrong, filed?
Yes.
Yeah. So we've got to have a official legal description on that, and I don't know of any way to do it other than having the survey that the applicant's talking about doing, unless Ms. Callahan and her many, many years of zoning prowess has another idea.
She's saying no. Okay.
You guys in Muskogee are much more adept than us, but we call this a good old handshake trust agreement on this one. And I would say it is our intent for all purposes, no joking aside, that we have no need for the property on the north. We don't need all 17 acres. The previous folks that came last week were even interested in buying it from us. We're open to that as well. That northern part, it's a beautiful little acreage. I've met the neighbor on the north side. I've walked the property. It's great. There's actually a road access that's right there that would really actually probably make some really great acreage or half-acre little lots to accommodate what's already there. Actually, one of our operators has thought about building a house there. So it's all in our intended purposes to develop it and be a good contributor to the community. To go back to OG&E, just to clarify, this is excess capacity that the City of Muskogee citizens have already paid for. We're just tapping into that existing capacity, and to also clarify, there is revenue that's going to come from this in a franchise tax back to the city. And thirdly, you guys have already approved a 500 megawatt project here, and we're talking about a 5 megawatt project here. And so we were excited when we saw the news release that you guys were excited about this 500 megawatt development. And we're talking about this is a small family operation, not a large corporate operation. And I know Muskogee well enough to know that you guys do that well here too. So,
Thank you. Any other questions before we close the public hearing? We'll now close the public hearing and take direction from the council.
To further maybe help the situation, any development that they do, anything under 10 acres would need to be platted. And that's where the survey comes in, and then the lots and the blocks, and depending on where he's wanting to develop. And at that time, on that northern part, if it's, of course, the 17 and dividing it, at that time, if they come in and they are wanting to develop something there to the north, or even in the subdivision part of the south, if that can be looked at as to the use and at the subdivision level, because then we notify utilities. That's when OG&E would have been notified on the project.
Thank you, Ms.
I don't know
Callahan.
if that helps.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Have we closed the public hearing? Further discussion from council. Do we have a motion to proceed one way or the other?
Move for approval?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve this request. Any further discussion from the council? Roll call.
Tracy Hous,
Yes.
Tracy McGee,
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan,
Yes.
Alex Reynolds,
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs,
Yes.
Jamie Stout,
Yes.
Ivory Van,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed,
Yes.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
No. The item passes. We will now move to item 14.
Hold a public hearing and take action on the approval of ordinance number 4131A to rezone property addressed as 5028 West Okmulgee, being more particularly described in the ordinance from C1 Local Commercial to C2 General Commercial, and if approved, authorize staff to revise the official zoning map of the city to reflect said change or take other necessary action.
We will now open the public hearing. Ms. Callahan.
Thank you. This may be my last, it literally is my last time to discuss this rezoning request for 5028 West Okmulgee. It is a request from Ronnie Boswell as the applicant, Inhofe Land and Cattle are the property owners. It is a request to go from a C1 local commercial to the C2 general commercial and to allow for expanded use, and that is what we looked at as in the existing building. Here is the map of the property. Closer look at it. And then this is a photo from our atlas map for the current zoning and the current zonings that surround the property. This is the site, the one part of it, and then we have the second to the east. And then this one shows the zoning classifications and uses that are surrounding that property. You will see there's a lot of local commercial. There is some general commercial down farther on the street, and then residential to the north of it. It is a request to go from the C1 local commercial to C2 general commercial. Staff recommended approval based on the location and the existing buildings that are located there, but Planning Commission denied their request, and this has been tabled so many times back from October, so be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Callahan. We have one person signed to speak to this issue on tonight, Ms. Patricia Cassica. I'm going to ask that you come to the microphone and give us your name and your address, and you'll have 5 minutes.
My name is Patricia Cassica. I live at 5003 Oklahoma. And with this new information that we just received on this property, until I see it in writing or I see something written in blood, I'm not going to believe that this is really settled, because things can be rezoned, new buyers can come in. And one of the things that I wanted to talk about was the issue of Oklahoma already has so many grow farms and dispensaries that we're being overwhelmed. Our citizens in Muskogee are being overwhelmed, and this was the reason why I came and talked about this. I think it started in September. But according to oklahoma.gov, there are 36 pot shops and farms currently in operation and about 70 applicants that are waitlisted. In my opinion, it is the city attorney, the city manager, and the city planner who are responsible for the overwhelming number of these marijuana dispensaries and grow farms. Even some of the district representatives are voting for keeping marijuana businesses which integrate our neighborhoods and rural land. The quality of life issue seems to take a back seat when it comes to these decisions. I saw an example of this when I came to the Board of Adjustment meeting this past week, February the 8th. And there was a special exception, which is in the city ordinances, to open a dispensary next to a church. These ordinances are found under Article 07 Agricultural District, Section 090702, entitled Permit and Special Uses for Agricultural Districts. The Macedonian Baptist Church in Muskogee is considered permitted under places of worship. I listened to several pleas from the pastor and members of his congregation. The decision ruled in favor of the marijuana grower. I cannot forget the look on the pastor's face as he and his supporters quietly left the room. And these are some of the feelings that people have when they get a letter in the mail that there's going to be rezoning. And it's very disheartening to many citizens to know that they're going to have to enter into some kind of a challenge or a vocal statement that they do not want these in their neighborhood. And with the current ordinances and the way it's worded, it is not on a level that most citizens understand. So as a homeowner, I'm also facing the same decision tonight on whether a dispensary will be placed within 300 feet of my home. I have spoken out against these dispensaries and how it is overwhelming my neighborhood. My home may not be worth $400,000, as some citizens at the February 7th meeting pointed out, but I understand their concerns. I pray that many more neighborhoods will take a stand against a different type of home invasion where city staff are bringing their unwanted garbage to our doorsteps. A California-based grow farm inhabiting the old post office has been operating for some time and to date does not have a ventilation system in place. The city manager can revoke a grower's license if he or she is violating a city ordinance as stated in section 22-675. It is my opinion that city staff and pro-marijuana district representatives are ignoring these violations because they don't want to lose the marijuana business. However, it sends a message to citizens that the judicial system is prejudiced, while it should be sending a message that justice rules over Muskogee. According to Governor Stitz, in the last State of the Union address, he pointed out that there are way too many dispensaries and grow farms in Oklahoma. It only costs $2,500 to get a commercial license in Oklahoma, but in California it costs $181,000. In Oklahoma there are 8,300 growers, and there are only 7 growers in California. We must get this problem under control. Following this statement, he mentioned several ways in which it would be done. So he has a plan for this state to start cracking down on these dispensaries and grow farms, and I'm all for that. I'm glad we have a governor that is standing up for us. It's about time. We have, as citizens, have to do our own work in this, but I think that we'll start to see a change for the better.
Thank you, Ms. Cassica. Do we have any questions for Ms. Cassica during the open discussion period? Ms. Callahan, I'd like some point of clarity on the Macedonia.
Yeah, excuse me. I was not able to attend that meeting. Matt Beasy was in attendance, but it did not pass. It was a 2-to-1 vote, and with the Board of Adjustment, the way they are now, that is a denial. So it did not pass.
It did not pass.
And had it passed, by Friday, the specific use permit is now in effect. So any of these, even this zoning classification or any future zoning classifications, and also special exceptions, even if they are approved, would still have to go through the specific use permit process. And Mr. Hazelton has that permit ready to go. She was worried about that it was going to change. It's in effect, and the ordinance is law, so it is starting.
We will now close the public hearing. Ms. Callahan, I do have a question on the subject matter that you just spoke to. Approving the rezoning does not approve it to be used as a marijuana grow house or dispensary.
No, it would only approve for use that's allowed under the C2 and medical marijuana. While it's allowed under the C2, it's also now has another layer of, and any of those other uses that are listed in the specific use permit. It probably would be a perfect gun range, to be honest, with the length of the buildings, but it needs to have the specific use permit process.
And so to be clear to all of us tonight, all we're doing, if this is approved, is approving a rezoning. if there is an applicant that would desire to turn this into a grow house in particular, they would have to file for a special use permit and go through the process that we established on last week, which is now in effect.
Yes, specific use permit process.
That's correct. And Mr. Tucker, we had this conversation, I think, months and months ago.
That's correct.
That we need to be careful about how we zone or don't rezone certain areas so that we don't become guilty of spot zoning.
That's correct.
And so I just wanted to make those points clear, that an approval of this is not approving this to be a grow house.
No, what you're looking at is some of the factors in deciding a rezone is, what has the property historically been used as? And it's a use that would be appropriate under C2. How long has it been vacant? What are the adjoining areas surrounding it? And they're commercial. So those are the factors that you're looking at in determining whether or not to approve a rezoning.
So given the law as it currently, the ordinance rather as it currently stands, anything outside of that list that requires a special use permit,
Specific use
use permit, could be used in the C2.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But that list is, just as a reminder, things that require specific use: prisons, mining, adult entertainment, landfills, public facilities, windmills, halfway houses, marijuana business, commercial uses, crematory, kennel, and gun club.
Thank you. We have closed the public hearing. Do we have any further?
Mayor, may I be recognized?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Ms. Callahan, with Macedonia Baptist Church, there was a dispensary wanted to be across from their church?
It was down to the east of the property in that strip shopping center. I guess there's 3 businesses that are in there. It's actually directly on the street, like Pickens, that's next to El Charros. Help me out here. The restaurant there. But no, it was denied, and that was the
El
El
Chico.
Chico's. Thank you.
So it was denied for them not to?
Yes, it was
be able-
denied. It was denied.
Okay. That's one thing about being on this council for 8 years. I got some experience up here on this council. Because I remember we had this problem, you remember with Boston Avenue Church when they was gonna build a marijuana behind the church? Remember that little incident?
Oh, on 32nd, yes.
Yeah. And plus, we have another one right over there on, with Broadway and 39th, 38th. It's a Pentecostal church. You walk, here's the Pentecostal church, you walk across the street, here's the marijuana shop. I mean, the dispensary, right there. So, like I say, that's one thing about being up here. You learn a lot. So I see the game done changed a little bit. Done changed a little bit up here. But I'm just observant. I'm very observant.
Unfortunately, the state law did not restrict a distance to churches. It just did to schools, so.
That was debate back then, too.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know,
we
wasn't no
have to
distance.
Follow the state law, but yeah.
Right, I understand. But I was just curious, I'll turn the floor back over to Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Van. Mr. Tucker, at some point, can we add that restriction? 300 feet from a church or a?
We had talked about that in the beginning when we adopted our marijuana zone ordinances. And off the top of my head, there was a reason we didn't do it, and I think we had to comply with what the state law said.
State law says.
We couldn't include any more restrictive licensing requirements than they did, but I'm happy to pull my notes on that. But that's just based on memory. But no, we had talked about that, and the council had expressed a desire to do that, and I believe the reason that we didn't is because we couldn't, but I can't cite you off the top of my head tonight on
If
that.
you can, at some point, will you
Happy to.
just email that information to the council so we
Happy
can know how to have that conversation going forward?
Yep.
Thank you. We have further discussion from the council.
Move for approval.
Well, I just wanted to make clear, now, we have a grandfather clause in place. Do we know if there are any type of, I'm not accusing nobody of doing anything that may have any type of licensing or any trackway that may be in place that we may not know about that could come back and get us in the morning?
No, because the provision that you all approved, when you approved the special use permit, was for expansion, rehabilitation, or renovation. And so any of those businesses have to be within the same area.
Thank
you.
you.
Yes.
On their existing properties.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Reed. Further discussion from the council, or what is your pleasure?
Second.
We have a motion
Second.
We have a motion and a second to rezone not authorized marijuana. Further discussion from the council?
I'm so glad we've come to an understanding.
Yes.
I'm definitely glad we have come to an understanding after all this time.
I just want to be clear of a yes vote right now just changes the zoning, but doesn't okay a marijuana project there, correct?
That is
They
correct.
would have to apply for a specific use permit, and it would go through the process, through Planning Commission and then through City Council.
And Councilor Reynolds, just for purposes of recollection, within the special use permit, the Planning Commission can recommend any operational conditions, recommend to impose any operational conditions, can include anything related to signage, odors, can make any of those requirements, and the council can impose those when they ultimately decide it. So the reason we did the specific use permit is to give the council and the Planning Commission more control over how these businesses operate so that they don't impact the adjacent or adjoining properties.
Thank you, Mr. Reynolds. And several of us have heard the concerns of the residents that when it comes time for us to go through that process for a special use permit, their concerns about it being in a residential neighborhood or close to churches.
One other thing, if I may add, Mayor,
Yes.
those residents will also receive notice of that public hearing in front of the Planning Commission as well.
Yes. Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second?
We have a motion and a second. I think we have 2 seconds. I apologize
Sorry.
for that on tonight. Further discussion from the council? Roll call.
Tracy Hous.
Yes.
Tracy McGee.
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan.
Yes.
Alex Reynolds.
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Yes, the item passes. Item number 15.
Hold a public hearing and take action on the approval of ordinance number 4151A to rezone property located at the west end of 301 North York Street, being more particularly described in the ordinance from R1, Single Family Residential, to C2, General Commercial District, and if approved, authorize staff to revise the official zoning map of the city to reflect said change or take other necessary action.
We will now open the public hearing. Ms. Callahan.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is a request from Lynn Kirk, which is Kirk Management. They are the owners. O'Reilly Auto Parts are the applicants. This is for the property that's addressed as 301 North York, but the zoning request is for the lot that is directly behind that to the west, and that is to allow for an expansion of the existing O'Reilly's property. They will go, I believe he said, Chris is here representing O'Reilly's. It's about a 4,000 square foot expansion, so this will allow for that. Did an overlay, you'll see that the blue is the existing and the red is the lot where they've purchased a residential home and they plan to demolish that home and then do the expansion. It is surrounded by commercial along York Street, and as you'll see, even though it is residential, the expansions along York are moving more west to where it would be in line with, say, the Walgreens and the others that are moving that way. It is a request to go, this particular lot, to go from the R1 Single Family Residential to C2 General Commercial, and that is a higher, really, zoning classification than we like next to residential, but they do need to have the same zoning classification for their whole property for title and legal opinion, legal reasons for mortgage. So staff, Planning Commission, and Public Works recommend approval. Be happy to answer any questions.
No one has signed up to speak to this item. We will close the public hearing. What is the pleasure of the council?
Move for approval. Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve this item. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Tracy Hous.
Yes.
Tracy McGee.
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan.
Yes.
Alex Reynolds.
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Yes, the item passes. Item number 16.
Hold a public hearing and take action on the approval of ordinance number 4150A to rezone property located west of South 55th Street between Tennyson and Estelle, being more particularly described in the ordinance from A1 agricultural to R5 mobile home zone, and if approved, authorize staff to revise the official zoning map of the city to reflect said change or take other necessary action.
We will now open the public hearing. Ms. Callahan.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is a request from Thomas Hill. He is the owner and applicant. He has purchased this property that's out West of town, it's off of South 55th Street, and then there is Tennyson to the north and Estelle, these between those properties. It is to allow for mobile home development. At this time, he's not sure how the layout of the property would be. There is a creek that runs through it. There's some water and sewer issues to the lots to the south, so it would depend on how he could sell the property to develop it, or if he chooses to develop for mobile home sites. A mobile home park would require it to be platted as a mobile home park, so these are only individual mobile home sites for each lot size that's required. This is the official Atlas map. Currently, it is zoned agriculture, and you'll see that there are mobile home zoning classifications around there. And then also with this map, it does show that while they're not zoned for mobile homes, there are several mobile homes that are placed out there in the agriculture zone. The request, again, it goes from the A1 agriculture to the R5 mobile home site. Staff, Planning Commission, and Public Works recommend approval. Be happy to answer any questions.
We don't have any residents signed up to speak to this item. We will now close the public hearing. What is the pleasure of the council?
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on this item. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Tracy Hous.
Yes.
Tracy McGee.
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan.
Yes.
Alex Reynolds.
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
The item passes. I'm going to take a point of
Personal privilege.
personal privilege as the mayor. I'm going to ask Ms. Callahan to return to the microphone. This is Ms. Callahan's final meeting with us as the planning director. And I just would like to say something nice about you, Tish.
You can make me cry.
Tish has served the city of Muskogee for over 26 years. Her most recent position as the Planning and Community Development, Director of Planning and Community Development. She was hired October 23rd, 1995, into the position of Secretary 2. During her tenure as Secretary, Tish had the opportunity to act as the Assistant Planner and was officially promoted to the position in mid-1999. Tish has been responsible for many projects under her career, including developing the project plan for the urban renewal, overseeing demolition, writing CDBG grant, and numerous other federal neighborhood grants. And I want to just take this opportunity to say that Tish has been, for me personally, more than an employee. She's been a friend as a Christian, making certain that when I wanted to perhaps fall off the deep end, that she reeled me in and said, Mayor, you may not want to say that way. She's been such a wonderful human being to work with. Muskogee will certainly be at a loss without you operating in that capacity. And I promise you, as your friend, I'm not trying to make you cry, but we want you to know that we love you. And it's my pleasure as the mayor of the city of Muskogee to present to you a key to the city.
Oh, well, thank you.
Mayor, will you step forward
Any
here?
members of the council who'd like to join us, you're welcome to do that at this time before we take the photo.
Thank you very much. It's been a great privilege to work for the city for the past 26 years. I've been blessed with a wonderful opportunity, and I'm very thankful and appreciative of it. So I will miss you all.
Thank you.
Where are we? Item number 17.
Consider approval to authorize submission of letters of intent to the City of Muskogee Foundation for fiscal year 2022-2023 grant cycle for city projects as follows. A, public safety radio upgrade, $3,208,332.50. B, Langston Park splash pad, $250,000. C, Senior Station Parking / Jefferson Highway, $50,000. D, Water Park, $500,000 with $500,000 CIP match. E, Swim and Fitness Center, $500,000 with $500,000 CIP match. F, Teen Center YVC Operations, $150,000. G, Teen Center Facility Assessment and Improvements, $50,000. H, Portable Stage, $50,000 with $50,000 match. I, Demolition and Beautification, $300,000 with a $50,000 CIP match. And J, City Attorney Community Service, $100,000, or take other necessary action.
Mr. Miller.
Yes, Mayor, members of council, we have been through this list before, so I will just point out a couple of brief things and then be happy to answer any questions. You're familiar with the schedule. Foundation has generously granted us a week extension so we could consider these. There are 2 changes since we talked last week. Part of the direction last week was any changes to be done before Wednesday at noon so we could get those into your packets. And so I'll just highlight those changes. And number 1 is a change even from your packet. If the radio upgrade with public safety, we've got a lot of moving parts and a lot of different agencies. So if you forgive us for our patience, we would like to make that request. The following changes, and you can see this slide accurately represents the request we would like to make, slightly different than what's in your packet. Grant request of $3,251,120.50 to replace those public safety radios across those different agencies. That number indicates slightly different matching amounts and slightly different amounts of radios than we'd previously done. That's a difference of about $43,000 over the previous grant request, but that's the significant change. The other change was to the demolition and beautification program we've applied for in the past through the City of Muskogee Foundation. There was some discussion. We do feel it's appropriate to make a further application for that funding this year. It does help us tear down dilapidated properties. We do have a match from the CIP of $50,000, and we'd like to request $300,000, which is similar to what we requested last year from the City of Muskogee Foundation. Otherwise, all the grants are similar to what we presented in committee. Be happy to go through those individually if you'd like. Otherwise, we recommend approval, and we'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. As we have previously stated to the council when this was originally presented, I asked your permission for us to consider this as a committee item. And so we looked at it with 1 pass, and this will be the 2nd pass as though it was going through committee. What is the pleasure of the council?
Move for approval.
Can I ask a question, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Mr. Reed.
Okay. I've been here year after year, and I know this is, you don't vote no because there's a problem with one specific thing, because that's casting down the whole entire thing. But I'm still stuck, and I apologize to my council that I didn't, have this discussion before the deadline as we were requested. But have we ever gone and asked for money from the foundation for our own personal studies? I kind of feel like we're burdening and stepping in the place of other things that could be funded through the foundation with this request. And I'm sure there's things that, other ways we can find to fund a study that we're doing within the city, because it's going to be this same foundation that we're going to have to come back and ask for money for, when the study comes back telling us that we need to do some improvements, if not a replacement of that center.
So, Deputy Mayor, I understand what you're saying. I think one of the things that we have done and the foundation has actually encouraged us to do is to do kind of a planning grant or a study or an assessment before we ask for that bigger grant. So this is following something that we've done with Hatbox, something we've done with Depot Green, something we've done with a lot of some of our other significant projects, and certainly what has been talked about for the teen centers is a significant project. They encourage us to, and have given us grants in the past for these kind of pre-studies or these preliminary assessments to see what would be needed down the road. They had a change about 6, 7, 8 years ago. They didn't want to do any large capital grants unless they'd done kind of a planning grant ahead of time. And so that's kind of how this falls into the things that they do. So I understand what you're saying, and It's certainly the will of council. We could certainly try and plan, do that outside of the foundation process, but they've encouraged that to make sure that they have buy-in. If something's going to happen, they know that there's a good plan to do a larger capital item later on down the line. So that's the purpose behind the request. Is it's their past practice has been to ask for us to do that.
All right.
So the short answer to Deputy Mayor's question is yes.
We have had studies in the past.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for translating. I appreciate it.
Any further discussion? Do we have a motion?
Mr.
Mr. Van?
Yeah, may I be recognized?
Yes.
I was looking at this YVC operations, $150,000. What's that entail, Mr. Miller?
So I'm going to look around and see if any of my friends from Parks are here, because I'm not the absolute best person to answer that, but I will give you the best of my knowledge right here. So we have two programs. One is the YVC is Youth Volunteer Corps. They're very active in the summer, and they do hundreds of hours of individual student volunteer. And they've made presentations to the council before. They're actually one of the best chapters of the Youth Volunteer Corps program in the country. And so our teen center operations are recognized as being a very good teen program, not just here in the city, but around the state and certainly on a national level as well, of the programs that we run through the teen center. These are the funding operations, the operations dollars to run those operations. It's not for the building, it's not for the electricity, it's not for that. This helps pay for the actual programs that the students participate in.
So after school, like, say for instance, they have tutors, and the students doesn't show up, the tutors still get paid, correct?
Mr. Van, I'm going to admit to some ignorance to the actual day-to-day workings of that program. So I don't want to say one way or the other. I'll absolutely find that answer for you.
Well, I think I'm correct because, like I say, I get out in the field and I think on things. And one day I was over there, and some of the students, like I say, they have a good program, don't get me wrong. But I'm just trying to make sure the money is being spent correctly, and we have the students there to take advantage of this program as far as being tutored after school. So the day I was over there, the teacher was there, there wasn't no students. So I was just curious to myself, when the teacher came that day, did he still get paid?
I'll ask that, but I'm assuming that we probably have people that if we've asked them to come to work, that they come to work, that they'll get paid. But in general, this is a program that we do reports in my weekly report about once a month. We'll have an update from the Teen Center with statistics about how many are participating. And the foundation, we turn in reports to them because they like to see the outcomes, and they look to see how many students are attending, what programs they're doing while they're there. So those are all, and the foundation's been very supportive. They encouraged us to make this application this year in this way.
Well, personally, I think that we need, as Parks Department and councilman, to go over there and check things out to make sure they're doing what they say they're going to do. Because if we don't, I'm kind of a little doubtful because of what I've seen that day. And I don't mean no offense to anybody, but I'm just saying, we just want this money spent right, and we want kids to show up. But I'll turn the floor back over to you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Van. Do we have any other questions on this item, or do we have, what is the pleasure of the council? We have a motion.
Yes, and if I may, with the amended amount, rather than the amount shown on the agenda, please.
Will the person who made the motion please state that the motion is, your motion is as amended, as presented?
Okay, so I'll change my motion to amend it as presented.
Thank you.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second on tonight on this item. Further discussion from the council? Roll call.
Tracy Hoos.
Yes.
Tracy McGee.
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan.
Yes.
Alex Reynolds.
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Yes, the item passes. Item number 18.
Discuss and take action to direct staff to prepare an ordinance mandating contact information of owners of vacant commercial properties as permitted by Senate Bill 277, as well as requiring said properties to maintain active utility accounts.
Members of the council, this is my agenda item, and in accordance with the Senate bill that was recently passed that granted municipalities permission to contact property owners of vacant commercial properties, I want to say that one of the things that we get regular concerns about are the number of vacant commercial properties in our community. What I'm asking us to do is give direction to staff to prepare a draft ordinance that will require utilities for all commercial properties. Tonight's vote does not make that happen tonight, but it does ask the city attorney's office to bring us a draft policy 30 days from today that will make that requirement into an ordinance. My motion is to direct the city attorney's office to draft an ordinance that will require utilities for all commercial buildings for our review and consideration for approval 30 days from today. And that is my motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on this item. Any discussion?
What do you mean by utilities?
Currently, we have a number of vacant commercial buildings throughout the city that are dormant and don't have any utilities at all. No water, no power, no gas, no electric. One of the problems that we've had with a number of our structures is that we see a trend of unoccupied buildings with no utilities that are subject to either fire or vagrancy. For example, and probably the most glaring example is the hotel property along Highway 69, where we know that people have gone and done something with fire that has caused that building to catch fire several times. So this will require all vacant commercial properties to require them to have utilities.
All utilities?
Mr. Tucker, can we do all utilities, or which ones can we do that you know of?
I would probably not suggest natural gas for purposes of, there's no one there to identify if there's a leak, but with water and electricity, I think that would be appropriate.
Water and electricity only. We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
So you would say, excuse me, Mr. Mayor,
Yes,
may I be
sir.
recognized?
Yes, Mr. Van.
May I be recognized?
Mhm.
You would say that all the properties right over here on Main Street that's dilapidated and looks bad and need to be tore down, they need utilities, right?
That will require that.
Well, I definitely, hey, you got my vote on that one, for sure. I'll turn the floor back over to you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Van.
What happens when that commercial business owner falls in a hardship, causes the business to close, and, you know, he's in a hardship, and what's gonna be what could be the punishment for, you know, not having utilities?
Moving forward with the dilapidation process, I mean, this would be one of the other, and I don't know that there's been any anticipation that there would be a separate fine associated with that. But if their ordinance was drafted and if you all passed it to compel these utilities and they didn't have it, then that would be evidence of dilapidation, in addition to any other issues that are facing that particular property.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Mr. Reynolds.
We run into the issue where you have landlords or building owners who lease their buildings out that may have a tenant vacate that building, and then therefore their utilities may be turned off. Are we going to allow an amount of time that can sit there until the next tenant comes along, or are we going to force the landowner to turn around and immediately put those utilities into their name? That can create quite an expense.
I would imagine that.
The operator of the building.
Mm-hmm. I would imagine that what the policy would do is have a set time frame for them to be able to do that. What that time frame ultimately is going to be the pleasure of the council once we have the draft to review.
And I will also point out that a lot of buildings are not going to be in a state where they can actually have electric or water hooked up to them. So we're going to have to come up with some type of bare fee or a base fee that you would pay, you know, $100 a month toward the water bill or $100 a month to hold the electric or whatever it is. It might be in bad choice to try to turn on utilities to a building that is not capable of receiving them, obviously.
And I would imagine that, Mr. Tucker, when we move forward over this 30-day period, council can submit recommendations for the ordinance, and then once we have it in 30 days, we'll vote those changes up or down. Of course, Mr. Tucker, I would also ask that, and I think you do this already, probably a week prior, or as soon as you have it over the next 30 days, if we get an electronic copy to review, so that when we come to the council for final approval or recommendation, we can have those discussions in advance so that we can be ready to vote one way or the other.
Absolutely, be happy to.
Thank you.
I know we're just gathering information for this ordinance, but I guess to help me better wrap my mind around this, and I apologize for my not knowing, can you give me a kind of overview of what this Senate Bill 277 is?
Sure. Yeah, Senate Bill 277 is not related to utilities. It's two separate issues. Senate Bill 277 allows cities to require that owners of commercial properties provide contact information to the city as to who is responsible for the property maintenance. They also allow us to require those individuals to receive service of process. So if we send any of these notices to property owners, we want to make sure we have a good address. And this was a recent amendment to the law, because you may remember when we, well, Derek, you may remember specifically because you were on the council, when we adopted the policy that was the vacant registration property owners list, and then immediately after the council adopted that, state law came in effect and said, no, we're preempting the entire field. Municipalities cannot require registration of owners. And so subsequent to that, then Senate Bill 277 was passed, where it said that municipalities can maintain a list of who emergency contacts are for vacant buildings for purposes of for the city maintaining contact with those owners to notify them in case they're out of town, if there are any issues with dilapidation, mowing, weeds and grass, just to have somebody to contact. Because as code enforcement would probably tell you, relying solely on the assessor's list sometimes results in, well, a lot of times results in mail being returned undelivered. And so this first step would allow us to require that these owners provide us with contact information. And then the second part would be to require them to maintain utilities in their buildings. And now for purposes of Councilor Reynolds' comment about, how would we know? Well, we will have a list of who to contact. And so if we get notification that water has been turned off, we can reach out to this person and say, hey, what's going on? Oh, well, my lessee left. We're advertising it for new leases. All right, perfect. It just allows us to maintain communication with the property owners so that we know what's going on with their buildings, rather than just allowing them to sit and deteriorate. That's kind of the idea, I think, Mayor Coleman, of what you're looking for, and those are the things that we'll include in that. But Senate Bill 277, the short answer, just allows us to maintain a registration list without any fee. So it wouldn't cost them anything to participate. We wouldn't be able to collect any money for that.
Just kind of concerned about squatters and homeless people. We provide them with utilities. We are, giving them a magnet to places to run and, misuse.
And I think as a separate item, what we need to do, Mr. Tucker, and I may have it as the next item on the homelessness issue, we have to firm up what we really believe in terms of how we should handle our homeless situation. Because we know from having them spoken with, several of them have said, when the question arises, what brought you to Muskogee? They will tell us, or the people that are in contact with them, we got dropped off from Norman. A bus brought me here from Northwest Arkansas. Another city sent us to Muskogee because I think it was Chief Teehee had said one time that the way most people deal with crime is the same way that they deal with their homeless population, and that is to transport those people 2 states over so that they won't come back to their community. And so separate from this, we do need to knuckle down on what are we going to do about it, other than be evasive about it or let it just inundate us to the point that we can't do anything about it at all. And mark my words, we are fastly headed that direction. Because if you walk up and down the downtown corridor, There's average of a new homeless person in Muskogee that is not a Muskogee resident almost every week. So, any further discussion on this item? We have a motion and a second. Do we have a second?
Mm-hmm.
We have a motion and a second to bring a policy to review. Roll call.
Tracy Hoos.
Yes.
Tracy McGee.
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan.
Yes.
Alex Reynolds.
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
No.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Yes, the item passes. Item number 19.
Discuss and take action to declare the properties located at 413 Tamaroa and 417 Tamaroa as a public nuisance and direct the city attorney to file a civil action to abate the same.
This is my agenda item for many of us on this council. We were not present when this problem became what it is today, but I believe that we have the unction to make certain that we correct it going forward. I believe that we are required in our responsibilities to be certain that wherever there is a public nuisance and it's brought to our attention, that it is properly addressed. And I am seeking support from this council to direct the city attorney to file a civil action to abate the property listed in the agenda. And after we hear from the one resident that has signed up to speak, that will be my motion to proceed. We have one resident signed up to speak to this item, Ms. Marshall. I'm going to ask that you come to the microphone and give us your name and your address, and you will have 5 minutes.
All right, Michelle Marshall at 1019 Elm Street. And I wanted to, the way you have it written out in there, to a nuisance, you know, I see that there hadn't been nothing done about all the dogs that he has up there on that property. And then also, I would like to know how he has gotten away with this long, living up on Elliott Park. And Elliott Park runs south and west all the way to Tamaroa. But he is able to live on Elliott Park in the trailer home, which, like I said last week, it's not zoned for trailer. But he won't live on his own property, but he wants to live off on Elliott. So I want to know from you guys, what's taking y'all so long to get him off of public property? Y'all may have a problem with him and his dilapidated houses that y'all not tearing down or nobody's doing anything about. But what's taking so long to get him off of city property? You know, and like I said last week, you know, I wanted to put a trailer down there for my children, want to come home, want to be back home close to their parents, and they can't do it. But you can let him, but you can't let me. You won't let me. You know, I've been turned down years upon years, and I've been down there almost 60 years. So I want to know how that he got Elliott Park when y'all not supposed to give away property to Elliott Park. When I called down there to the assessor's office, they said, well, he owns property to the north. All that from north to south is supposed to be Elliott Park. So how did he acquire that? Who gave it to him? You know, that's what I want to know. Because as me growing up, that was all Elliott. So I want to know why. What, I've been there this long, and he's been up there in that trailer. But y'all can't move him off of there in the trailer. So I want to know, why can't I? Y'all have torn down all the other dilapidated homes, but not his. Y'all bypassed his. He don't let city cut through the grass. He don't, and I was told by one over here, Tucker, said that when he cuts grass for us, regardless if he cut grass for y'all, he's living wrong. He's living wrong. I mean, I don't know what to say. I mean, I've been over this years upon years upon years, and nothing has been done. So I want to know, how much longer do I endure, or how much longer do our people have to endure. They can't walk outside their house. They can't sit outside their house because of all the noise, all the animals that he has up there. And you're only supposed to have 2 to 3. I mean, what can we do?
Right. So, Ms. Marshall, I can't speak for those who might have tried to pursue this. For me, I can't. Prior to me occupying the position I'm in now, I do know that for several of the councilors that are on the council now, they're probably in the same situation I was in. I am now, that they weren't on the council and they may not have had the opportunity to address it. But I give my assurance that now that I am, I don't care how I have to reword the agenda going forward. I don't care how many times I have to come back to try to make this resolution happen. But we will do what we can going forward to be certain that this is addressed, that he is addressed in terms of him occupying land that belongs to the city, and also addressing him being a public nuisance. And this first step on tonight to file a civil action is a step that we take to go in that direction. And I'm certain that this council that we have now is resolute that we won't stop until it's cleaned up.
Okay, I will. I mean, I can't do anything but go through y'all's word. I mean, for y'all's word, because, I mean, everybody else has never done anything. And I'm tired because I can't enjoy my home, my surroundings that I keep clean, pay my taxes, and can't enjoy my space, you know, so.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. While you're there, I will ask Mr. Miller if he will give us a report this week on direction to staff about the dog issue in particular. That
Yes, sir.
He is absolutely in violation, the property owner, of that, and be certain that we address that sooner than later, because there's simple things that we could do in the process of the civil suit to address that, and possibly some of the other issues, I'm not sure, but definitely the dog issue.
Okay, but the civil suit y'all saying is to what? Have his area cleaned up or have him moved off of city property?
Everything.
Everything.
Everything. He has, that property owner has to vacate city property, and we're going to push for the courts to give us permission. He either cleans it up, or if we go in, we're not going in with silk stockings. We're going in with whatever resources are allowed to us by the state of Oklahoma, in accordance with the decision of district court, to clean it to the ground.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, may I be recognized?
Yes, Mr. Van.
I want to thank you, Ms. Taylor, for coming up here. And like I said, this problem has been going on quite a while. And just like when it's been 2 weeks now, I believe, I'm curious myself as a councilman with this dog issue. We put a work order in. The next day, not code enforcement, but animal control should have went out there. Have they went out there yet, Mr. Miller? Because I simply ask. I remember asking this myself to see if code enforcement will go out there and check on those dogs.
I'll look in our system and get back with you to see what the status is of that request. I don't know off the top of my head, but I know this property has been subject of very many actions by our code enforcement staff and our animal control staff over the years.
And over the time that we've been sitting up here on this council, I hope I'm not out of line, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Beast, I know would you mind going to the mic? You have dealt with this for quite some time yourself, correct? With Mr. Black?
What's that?
With Mr. Black?
Mr. Black's been dealt with by our office for a number of years, yes.
Would you say how long? How many years right now?
I think we've had issues since before I was here.
Okay.
So in excess of 10 years.
Excess of 10 years. Okay. Because like I say, I remember, I can't remember exactly if I was sitting on the council then, but I remember coming to council meetings and hearing this. But I think I've been sitting on this council to hear Mr. Black's, because like I say, I know he shot at people, the employees and this and that. And Ms. Taylor was telling you the truth. And I'm pretty sure I was sitting on this council. And I thought.
He's been there since 1990. And the first night that 97, 98, 99, somewhere in there. And I've called the police on him the first night that he arrived in there. And he's been
trouble from the first day he got there. And I've called the police many times. And they've told me, well, just stay away from him, you know. Why should I have to, you know, subject or downsize my life because of him? I mean, you know, we can't go to Elliott Park. We can't walk. People ride horses up there. We rode our four-wheelers. We rode, you know, just stuff that we've been doing ever since we were kids. Tracy understands. She know. And we've been doing this all our lives, and nobody has never said anything. City have never, the police has been up there. Police has even been up there with us, playing ball with us. But then all of a sudden, he comes up in there and pulls guns on all of us, kids, school kids, the teachers from Sattler doing what you call it, what they do out in the wilderness. And he's come out there and pull guns on the kids and tell them, don't come over here. Don't, you know. I can see him from my kitchen window, my bedroom window, my bathroom, all of this. And then, you know, I can see everything. You know, so something needs to be done.
Well, thank you for coming, Ms. Black. I mean, not Ms. Black, I mean, Ms. Taylor. Because something does need to be done. And she's not up here fibbing. She's telling the truth. Because like I say, I remember it just like it was yesterday. And I promise you, and I thank you, Mayor, for addressing this. And thank you, Councilman McGee. This is your ward. This is your constituent. And we need to take care of her. This bottom line. Nothing like this should even happen on this in a city what she has been going through, and employees getting shot at. Nothing like that should happen here in the city of Muskogee, Oklahoma, that we love dearly. So that's just me, and I just hope that, I ain't gonna hope it, we're gonna take care of it. We're gonna take care of it this time, Ms. Taylor, because I know how it feels to be at that mic. I get kind of emotional myself, because I know what you're going through, to set it before a council, and sometimes they just don't want to listen to you. I've been there, I've done that. That's why God put me in this spot tonight. So I know what you feel, ma'am. I'll turn the floor over to you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for bringing this to, you know, and let's get this done.
Thank you, Mr. Van. My motion is to proceed.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on item number 19. Any further discussion?
One thing, Mayor, the motion will need to authorize the creation and execution of a resolution outlining the public nuisances, because we'll need that to attach to the petition.
I amend my motion as presented.
Second.
It's been, motions have been amended and seconded. Further discussion? Roll call.
Tracy Hous.
Yes.
Tracy McGee.
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan.
Yes.
Alex Reynolds.
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Yes, the item passes. Item number 20.
Discuss issues related to inadequate parking in the downtown corridor and provide necessary direction to staff.
This is my item, members of the council. Several of our downtown businesses, particularly along the Broadway corridor, have difficulty catering to their customers because parking is dominated by people who are parked but not patronizing that area. A prime example are the businesses along Broadway between Main and 2nd Street. My motion will be to direct the city attorney's office to draft a policy that restricts parking in certain areas for businesses at specified times that will result in fines, penalties, and towing vehicles that violate these provisions, and that this policy be presented for us to review 30 days from today. As previously stated, this is just direction to staff to bring back a policy for us to review because it is a growing problem, and as we desire to grow, particularly our downtown area, we have an obligation to maintain its integrity to be certain that those businesses that are trying to survive can do so without being hindered by vehicles that are where they do not belong. And so my motion is to direct the city attorney's office to draft a policy that restricts parking in certain areas for businesses at specified times. That would include, that could result in fines, penalties, and towing of vehicles that violate provisions, and that this policy be presented to us for review 30 days from today. That is my motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on that item. Any discussion?
Mr. Mayor, do we have what's in place now? Because isn't it, you only can park in certain places, like if you had American Pie, they got 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces right there that no one else can park in.
Mr. Tucker?
No?
No, that's not true. All of these spaces that are in the public right-of-way are not reserved. They're all ours. And so right now, they're open parking to anybody. The time that is limited in the downtown area is 2-hour free parking.
Okay.
Anything after 2 hours, the individual can be cited. The parking tickets right now are just $6, but they have to be paid within 48 hours. If 3 unpaid parking tickets are received, then we move to the second phase, which is a notice of mobilization. And then if those parking tickets remain, then the vehicle is immobilized with one of those tire things that sit on it. And then if it is not moved, then it is towed away. If a vehicle remains in the area for more than 6 hours, it's immobilized and then towed away as well.
So do we still have the parking attendant that go around and mark the tires?
We do not.
You do not?
That is, the parking enforcement is being done by the Muskogee Police Department right now.
What about the people that live in the apartments over the,
That's a huge problem.
yeah?
To Councilor Reynolds and Councilor McGee's statement, American Pie is a prime example. They hustled and did everything they could to stay open during COVID. They struggle with lack of being able to find employees to manage the few hours they can stay open. And I think that the hours that they do work to try to be open, we should give them the support that they need so that when people drive by and want to support their business, they're not tempted to keep going and bypass them because they can't find parking because of what's going on with those residents on that second level.
Do we know if the people in these apartments, if they have something in their leases that give them parking spots?
So originally, one thing to remember is downtown is a parking exempt zone. That means when you develop something, you don't have to plan for parking, like you would if you're developing anywhere else in the city. And so what originally happened with the apartments is they entered into a lease for spaces with that parking garage that I believe is owned by the Muskogee Public Schools. Probably not recently, but within the last year, Muskogee Public Schools decided they were going to raise that structure, and so they told the individuals they could no longer park there. And so that created an additional problem. So the parking lot that is immediately to the west of Pisano's and around the corner from that lot on, I think it is 2nd Street, was recently donated to the Roxy Theater and is being operated by the Muskogee Tourism Authority. Prior to the lot being closed within the last week, or I think 2 weeks, I put the owners of the Seavers Block Building condominiums in contact with the Roxy Management Group to see if they could lease some spots so that their folks had a place to park. I was told that they did reserve 7 spots, and then sometime after that, there was some discussion on an actual lease for those spots, and then the two parties have not been able to connect. When I spoke with Avery Fricks with Oxford Productions, I told him who he needed to contact with, who he needed to be in contact with for the Arts District apartments. And you will note that parking area is now closed, and that is due to some safety issues related to the parking structure and what's underneath it. Yes. But I am told that is anticipated to be open within the next 3 to 4 weeks, so hopefully that will alleviate some of their issues as well. So that's the long answer to your question, Councilor Hibbs.
Well, I know a couple of them have some parking spaces, but not near enough for the people that are renting or leasing them.
Yeah, and part of the other concern from the individuals who are living in the Arts District's apartments is that there is no handicap spaces nearby. I mean, there are none in the public right-of-way, and there weren't any in the parking garage where they were. And so within those individuals were just parking as close as they could because there's no handicap parking on-street handicap parking.
Thank you, Ms. Hibbs.
Problem.
Yep. We have a motion and a second, I believe.
Yes.
Further discussion? Roll call.
Tracy McGee,
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan,
Yes.
Alex Reynolds,
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs, Jamie Stout,
Yes.
Ivory Van,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed,
Yes.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Yes, the item passes. Item number 21.
Discuss City Council Policy 1-10, Muskogee City Council Code of Ethics, and provide direction to staff on possible revisions.
This is my agenda item to members of the council. I'm in routine conversations with young people about the importance in serving their community by being elected to the city council. All of us at some point will age out. Some of us are headed there faster than shorter. And I'm asking us to be considerate of those younger people that we need to attract, not to come along when we age out, but as we age out. Their common consensus can be paraphrased this way. Why should they serve on the council and be at risk of being personally attacked by people who serve as their peers, or be placed in a position where they have to constantly defend misgivings spread to the community by those of us who are elected to uphold the public trust in a reputable and respectful fashion? To the extent necessary, we are responsible as a council to ensure that businesses, families, and those who are forming an opinion about our city see that we are a council of integrity and common courtesy, and to be put it plainly, have manners. I'm asking us to direct the city attorney's office to draft revisions with your input, strengthening our existing policies to include censorship penalties or possible removal from this body for behavior that puts our credibility at risk, and that be presented to the body for consideration within 30 days. Tonight, for example, I led an agenda item, and my dear friend, Councilor Reed, voted no. But I know Councilor Reed likes fried chicken. And I will find an opportunity this week to buy him lunch and have conversations with him about why. But I will never take the opportunity to disparage him because we have a disagreement. And I think that as we move forward as a council, we have a responsibility to, one, remember that every vote we take now is not about us. It's guaranteeing that those future generations of Muskogee residents, those young people that see our actions and are even excited to see us walk into a room because they recognize us as elected officials, feel that they can be in a safe environment, free from unjust criticism, even though we may disagree, so that they may want to serve, want to give, want to volunteer, because as many people are unaware, none of our 9 positions are paid positions. We all volunteer for the common good. We have an obligation to be certain that those who follow in our steps feel the happiness to serve without concern for their personal reputation or their decisions being unruly criticized or put in a situation where they are even shamed to return to the council chambers. So that will be my motion, to direct the city attorney staff to come back with a policy that addresses those issues within 30 days for us to consider as a council.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion on that item? Roll call.
Tracy Hoos.
Yes.
Tracy McGee.
No.
Stephanie Morgan.
Yes.
Alex Reynolds.
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Yes, the item passes. We have 2 citizens signed up to speak to us on tonight. I'm going to call your name, and when you come to the microphone, you will give us your name and your address. You'll have 3 minutes. Mr. Tucker, just for the purpose of us being reminded that this is not the comment time for us to engage, can you remind us of the rules of decorum?
Absolutely.
This section.
Yes, nothing can be discussed between the council and the citizen wishing to address, because there is the specific item they're addressing is not on the agenda, and so there can be no interaction between the council and the speaker. They are limited to 3 minutes and can simply address their concerns to the council. There can be no comment or back and forth between the speaker and the council.
Thank you, Mr. Tucker. Julia and Roger Wagner, if you will come to the microphone and give us your name and your address, and you will have 3 minutes.
I'm Roger Wagner. My wife Julia Wagner. 501 West Muskogee. Our community is changing. We have been forced as a community due to question 788 to step out of our comfort zones and embrace cannabis. There are no manuals for navigating a heavily regulated industry. There have been stumbles along the way. There are some overwhelming positives that should be considered. Patients are getting medicine in a safe way. Patients aren't the only ones that are thriving. There's a positive economic impact as far as has far exceeded the growing pains. The cannabis journey hasn't been economically bad for the city of Muskogee. Nearly 376,000 Oklahomans, roughly 10% of the population, have medical marijuana cards, and by far the highest share in the country. According to the Medical Policy Project. Oklahoma decided to give a free market, let the free market run unencumbered. As a result, the state is now home to nearly 12,600 marijuana business licenses, including 8,600 growers, upwards of 2,300 dispensaries. Oklahoma's growing medical marijuana market has been lucrative for the state, generating nearly $150 million in revenue in 2021, up from nearly $128 million in 2020, according to state data at OMA.gov. As a census of 2000, there were 38,310 people in Muskogee, 15,523 households, and 9,950 families living in the city. I apologize. There are approximately 3,800 patients living in the Muskogee city limits, or Muskogee County. Muskogee is home to 38 dispensaries, 98 grows, and 16 processors. There are also many auxiliary small businesses that support cannabis. There is no way around the fact that cannabis has deep ties in the community. Cannabis.
I'm going to make a motion to extend your time when time's up, but go ahead.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Go right ahead, no problem.
Okay. Cannabis companies face unique circumstances that normal businesses do not deal with. The cannabis industry is growing rapidly, with global sales expected to reach 33.6 billion with a B by 2025. Through the industry,
Mr. Wagner, I'm going to make a motion that we extend your time by 3 minutes. Will that be enough time for you to
Yes, sir.
finish? We have a motion to extend the time by 3 minutes. We have several seconds. Roll call.
Tracy Hous.
Yes.
Tracy McGee.
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan.
Yes.
Alex Reynolds. Evelyn Hibbs.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Yes, you have an additional 3 minutes.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Thank you all. I'll just get right to it. There are a lot of regulations, and there's a lot of that the medical marijuana that we all have to go through. We are business owners here in Muskogee. We do have a farm in the county. We are a processor, and we're in the process of building a dispensary. I'm not looking for a handout just because we're cannabis. I think that there should be some kind of, not necessarily a committee, but something that helps navigate all the legalities for the industry that's set by the state, by the county, and by the city. I think that would be helpful. I heard earlier there was a person that commented that there's too many. And quite frankly, I sometimes feel the same way. Now, and that's coming from someone that's opening a dispensary here in Muskogee. But in that regard, it's, in my personal opinion, that it's because the prices are too high for the patients. And that's one thing that we're going to correct at our dispensary, is that we're going to have a lower margin to help the community. Sorry, that my wife was just pointing out that we do want to help educate the city patients that when someone goes to a doctor and gets a medical marijuana card, they're just handed the card. They're not giving any kind of guidance on what kind of strain or what kind of anything to help them with what they have an ailment for. And I think it's just wrong. You don't go get a prescription. I mean, doctor doesn't give you a prescription. You go to the pharmacy. Pharmacy just doesn't hand it to you. The pharmacist talks to you about it, tells you you may look for this. Are you trying to do this? You know, they ask you if you have questions. Anyway. Let's see, case studies needed. The community would like to understand the economical impact of cannabis for the city. The community would like to have more visibility on education and resources for the patient and the cannabis business. Last thing, that if there's some kind of guidance that the city could provide to navigate all the rules and regs that's been laid out for the community. Anyway, I apologize for taking too long, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Wagner. We appreciate you and your wife very much.
We also brought some copy of the paperwork that we spoke.
I didn't know if we could pass those out to the.
You're certainly welcome.
Is that okay?
If you give them to the clerk, she'll be certain that we all get a copy.
Excellent.
Thank you all
so
very much.
Appreciate it, y'all.
No problem. The next person signed up to speak to us tonight is Councilor Ivory Van. I'm going to ask that you give us your name and your address, and you'll have 3 minutes.
My name is Councilman Ivory Van. My address is 4338 Columbus Street, Muskogee, Oklahoma, 74401. The reason I was going to speak tonight, February the 8th is over, and the people have spoke. And I want to thank humbly the citizens and the constituents of Ward 3. It's an honor to serve you. And in this capacity up here on this city council, I've been up here 8 years, and by you voting me to get back in, that means another 4 more years. And sometimes if I seem like I'm real passionate and I get mad, I am a passionate person about different things. And I love to serve my council. I love to serve my city. And one thing, y'all did make the right decision. You definitely made the right decision, because I'm the type of person, I'm a personal city councilor. I go out, I meet the people. If somebody calls me on my phone here, I always go out and see what the problem is. And Mr. Miller can tell you this. Me and Mr. Miller, we ride around together, and we look at different things. And I interact with the city attorney on the community service programs and different things. And so I try to do the best job I can for no pay. And I'm a city councilman every single day. And I'm just, and the people that didn't vote for me, all you have to do is call my number, 918-360-9191. If you have a problem, I'm still your city councilman. And I will come by to visit. And also, when the project is done, when I make a work order, Mr. Stewart can tell you that I do go by and I look at these projects to make sure they're done right. I'm not saying I'm the best, but I know a little something about mechanical things. And that's one thing that I can say, that I do correspond with my constituents. And I don't know how other councilmen up here do it, but I know how I do it. And I just love, like I say again, I love serving my constituents in Ward 3, and I love working with my Deputy Mayor Reed. Right now, Robson Park, we're putting a parking lot in over there and a sidewalk. I was over there today. Deputy Reed's going over there with me tomorrow. So we are doing things in Ward 3. No matter what people say, we are working in Ward 3. And the guy that's doing, the gentleman, the contractor's on that job in Ward 3, you don't have to look over him. When I say he's good, he is good. I watched him. I watched him today. I didn't film him, but I got pictures. But like I say, that's what it takes. We don't need to just sit up here and say yes and no. We need to get out in our community and intermingle with our citizens. And that's just what I do. So please, the people that didn't vote for me, give me a chance. Call me. If you have a problem with me or something I'm doing wrong up here, tell me. I want to know. So after saying all this, again, thank you, citizens of Ward 3, for entrusting me to be your city councilman for another 4 years. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Mann. Item number 21.
Consider an executive session to discuss and take possible action on the following: A, pursuant to Section 307B2, Title 25 Oklahoma statutes, consider convening an executive session to discuss negotiations with the Fraternal Order of Police Lodge Number 95, and if necessary, take appropriate action in open session. B, pursuant to Section 307B2, Title 25 Oklahoma statutes, consider convening an executive session to discuss negotiations with the International Association of Firefighters, Local Number 57, and if necessary, take appropriate action in open session. C, pursuant to Section 307B4, Title 25 Oklahoma statutes, consider convening an executive session to discuss the investigation and action relating to the dilapidated structures and public nuisance located at 413 and 417 Tamaroa in the corporate limits of the city, and if necessary, take action in open session to authorize the city attorney to initiate a civil action pursuant to Council Policy 2-3. D, pursuant to Section 307B4, Title 25 Oklahoma statutes, consider convening an executive session to discuss the ongoing litigation styled Quintana DBA Fort Gibson Investments versus City of Muskogee, filed in the United States District Court for the Eastern District of Oklahoma, case number 19CV066RAW, and if necessary, take appropriate action in open session.
Do we have a motion to go into executive session?
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to go into executive session. Roll call.
Tracy Hoos.
Yes.
Tracy McGee.
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan.
Yes.
Alex Reynolds.
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Yes, the item passes. I'm going to ask that those of you who are not privy to the executive session items, that you excuse yourself from the chamber at this time. We will now reconvene from executive session. Roll call.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Here.
Ivory Van.
Here.
Jamie Stout.
Here.
Evelyn Hibbs.
Here.
Alex Reynolds. Stephanie Morgan.
Here.
Tracy McGee.
Here.
Tracy Hoos.
Here.
Mr. Tucker.
Item 21A, pursuant to Section 307B2, Title 25 Oklahoma statutes, the City Council did convene an executive session to discuss negotiations with the Fraternal Order of Police, Lodge Number 95. After being briefed on the status of those negotiations, I think an appropriate motion would be to approve a memorandum of understanding between the city and the FOP regarding the promotional process.
Do we have a motion to approve?
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Tracy Hoos.
Yes.
Tracy McGee.
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan.
Yes.
Alex Reynolds. Evelyn Hibbs.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Yes, Mr. Tucker.
Item 21B, pursuant to Section 307B2, Title 25 Oklahoma statutes, the council did convene an executive session to discuss negotiations with the International Association of Firefighters, Local Number 57. After being briefed on the status of those negotiations, I think an appropriate motion would be to approve 3 memorandum of understandings between the City of Muskogee and the International Association of Firefighters relating to 1, waiver of the EMR requirement for the fire marshal and assistant fire marshal, 2, modification of the uniform policy, and 3, adopting the use of force policy of the Muskogee Police Department.
Do we have a motion?
Move for approval.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Roll call.
Tracy Hoos.
Yes.
Tracy McGee.
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan.
Yes.
Alex Reynolds.
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Yes, the item passes. Mr. Tucker.
Item C, pursuant to Section 307B4, Title 25, Oklahoma statutes, the City Council did convene an executive session to discuss the investigation and reaction relating to the dilapidated structures and public nuisance located at 413 and 417 Tamaroa within the limits of the city. After being briefed on the status of that investigation and the need for action, I think an appropriate motion would be to authorize the filing of a civil suit relating to the dilapidated structures and the public nuisances already declared by the council, and if appropriate, for ejectment or other similar, thank you, civil process relating to ownership dispute.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion to approve and a second. Roll call.
Tracy Hous.
Yes.
Tracy McGee.
Yes.
Stephanie Morgan.
Yes.
Alex Reynolds.
Yes.
Evelyn Hibbs.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Ivory Van.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Derek Reed.
Yes.
Mayor Marlon Coleman.
Yes, the item passes. Mr. Tucker.
Item 21D, pursuant to Section 307B4, Title 25 Oklahoma statutes, the City Council did convene an executive session to discuss the ongoing litigation styled Quintana DBA Fort Gibson Investments versus City of Muskogee, filed in the Eastern District Court for the Eastern District of Oklahoma, United States District Court. After being briefed on the status of that ongoing litigation, no action is necessary at this time. Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Tucker. We say happy Valentine's to everyone on tonight, and we are adjourned.